Hello everyone. This is chapter 15 from my contemporary romance novel Under a Namibian Sky. Luca and Santina were as shocked as Johan when Auntie Elsa told them about the two poachers who'd come looking for Ellie Naomi at Desert Lodge in the early morning hours. Johan was particularly incensed. During the day, it's as if the orphans try to please us. You all saw Ellie Naomi. They're so sweet, as if they're thanking us. But at night, these babies cry for their mummies for a very long time. It's heartbreaking to witness their tears and their sadness. They're often inconsolable. And we feel so helpless. There's nothing we can do. We can only try our best to make them feel better. We give love and try to give their lives purpose and meaning again. But make no mistake, it's tough going. These babies are as vulnerable, sad, and depressed as human babies would be without their mothers. Luca was bristling. So, it is not enough to kill the mothers for their ivory, and then these guys come to kill the babies for food? Oh my God, I can't even comprehend it. Johan placed an enormous hand on Luca's shoulder. I know exactly how you feel. It's why we have such powerful security systems here. Luca looked in Naomi and Auntie Elsa's direction. His eyes asked about their security systems. Auntie Elsa nodded. Yes, all the lodges have security. We have to protect our businesses, but the poachers can be very crafty indeed. Johan nodded. Another reason we have the anti-poacher guards as surrogate fathers for the orphans and why they sleep with the Ellies at night. Johan led the way to the veranda and arranged for coffee and tea for his guests, while Luca stayed with Ellie Naomi and her surrogate father. Luca moved around her, taking many more pictures of her now she was more relaxed. She appeared to know she was the star and struck such comical poses it had everyone laughing at her antics. But the attention only seemed to encourage her. She was so cute, it was easy to fall in love with her. Kerry winked at Naomi. I know she's named after you, but she couldn't be more different. I think she's more like me. I'm glad because it means we can share her. I hope that's okay with you. Naomi squeezed her friend's hand. Of course. The more parents she has, the better. We can make up for the horrible nightmare she's been through. Naomi noticed Johan watching Kerry, and even though Kerry wasn't returning his gaze, her cheeks were pinker than usual. Naomi smiled to herself, glad for her friend. Johan was a good and wonderful man with a kind heart. Naomi knew that Kerry had had her fair share of men problems. Johan would treat Kerry well. A sudden commotion at the mud bath jerked her attention in that direction. Luca was trying to fend off Ellie Naomi. She was pushing him into the mud bath while he was trying to hang on to his camera. But just when it seemed he'd end up on his bottom in the mud, the Ellie's surrogate father drew her attention to himself and away from Luca. It was so funny. Everyone, including Luca, roared. After a delicious lunch of barbecued lamb chops served with baked potatoes and salad, Luca announced he wanted to stay and take more pictures and videos of Ellie Naomi until she went to sleep. Johan agreed to take Luca back to Desert Lodge in time for dinner. The drive back to the lodge with only the women in the truck was far quieter than the one going to the elephant orphanage had been. Naomi suspected it was because everyone was sated from the lunch, happy with Ellie Naomi's progress, and ready for a siesta. But the journey without Luca in the car felt weird, empty. No sooner had Naomi parked the truck under Desert Lodge's porch than everyone deserted her, going to bed or, in Kerry's case, to check on her messages in the office. In the kitchen, Naomi poured herself an iced tea to take to her room and walked down the corridor. She could hear voices coming from the direction of the guest lounge. Strange. She was sure no one would be in there, but someone was, and it sounded as if they were arguing. As she neared the room, the raised voices became much louder. She recognized Kerry's voice, but the other belonged to a man. He sounded very upset or angry. "A sorry excuse for a lot I've ever seen." As Naomi entered the lounge, the man looked up. He reminded of the princes that appeared at the lodge from time to time. He was a very tall, large man with closely cropped hair, dressed in a white shirt and jeans. He glared at Naomi, his face red, both from fury and heat. "And who might you be?" His accent was difficult to pinpoint, but Naomi could hear a slight American-British diction in his speech. Naomi walked further into the room. She cast a quick glance at Kerry, who appeared very cross. Kerry's breathing was fast and high in her body, but she was obviously doing her best to stay professional. "May I introduce Naomi Smith, Mr. Sawaski? She's our head guide here at Desert Lodge." The man's hand swallowed Naomi's. His eyes ran up and down her body, apparently finding her wanting. A frown remained between his eyes, the colour of a storm about to break. He snorted a discontented greeting. Well, I suppose you all have to do." Naomi glanced at Kerry, confusion in her eyes. Kerry stepped forward, her hands up in defence. "Oh no, Mr. Sawaski, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. Naomi is currently looking after other guests. I can get another guide, Gerard, to take you to whatever excursions you would like." The man's face went a notch redder. He threw his arms in the air in exasperation. "Oh, for fuck's sake!" Auntie Elsa appeared in the doorway at the same time as the man swung back to yell at Kerry, a threatening finger pointing at her. Auntie Elsa walked past Naomi, taking the glass of iced tea from her hand and offering it to the outraged man. She gently took his elbow and steered him through the door that led to the dining room, which was empty and much cooler. Auntie Elsa's soothing voice seemed to have an immediate calming effect on the man who had allowed Auntie Elsa to lead him away. "Mr. Sawaski, is it?" Her voice grew fainter as they disappeared into the dining room, the thick walls of the old house the perfect soundproof. Naomi blew out a breath she'd been unaware of holding. Kerry slumped down into the nearest chair. Naomi sat down opposite her friend, leaning towards Kerry. "What was all that about? I hope Auntie Elsa won't fire me." Only now did Naomi notice her friend was shaking from head to toe. "Why would she fire you? Are you okay?" Kerry put her head in her hands. "It's my fault, to be honest. I'd completely forgotten he was arriving today, and have had a few very heated conversations." "It was him on the phone when I came into your office earlier." Kerry nodded, her head still in her hands. "He was staying at Elsa's at Solitaire." Naomi sighed. She'd forgotten how appallingly their usual princes could behave. Luca had spoiled them. "And already he gave you a hard time before he even arrived." Kerry nodded, then looked up at Naomi. "I just pray he won't drop me in it with Auntie Elsa." Naomi noticed that talking had seemed to calm Kerry down. She wasn't shaking so much anymore. Naomi couldn't think of any reason her friend would be so worried. Her eyes and her arched eyebrow asked the question. Kerry sighed, but a small smile played around her mouth. "I went out last night." "You did not. When?" Kerry looked sheepish. "When you all went to sleep." "Now that you mention it, I was wondering where you were when those two poachers were caught. I thought you were just asleep, but you weren't here, were you?" Kerry shook her head, her eyes pleading with Naomi. It was Naomi's turn to smile. "You dirty stop-out, you! Don't tell me! You went out with your hun, am I right?" Kerry's mouth dropped open, her face a picture of astonishment. "How did you—" Naomi had to laugh at her friend's reaction. "I saw the way Johan looked at you, and the blush on your cheeks." Naomi got up, went to squeeze in beside Kerry on the chair, and gave her friend a big hug. "I'm so happy for you. He's a lovely guy." Kerry relaxed in Naomi's arms, her head on Naomi's shoulder, her voice smiling when she responded. "He's really lovely. I didn't know I could be this happy." The two friends moved apart and looked at each other. Kerry was smiling and patted Naomi's hand. "Now we just have to sort out you and Luca." Naomi withdrew her hand and got up. Kerry looked up at her friend, concern clear in her eyes. "What? What did I say?" Naomi shook her head, sudden tears burning behind her eyes as she lowered them to stare at her feet. She had to get away. Not even Kerry could know. Not yet, anyway. "Nothing. I'm just tired. I think I'll have a nap before I take Santina out for a sunset safari." Kerry looked even more sheepish, if that was possible. "Sorry, I forgot." "What?" "She cancelled the sunset safari today. She wanted to spend more time with Auntie Elsa, she said. I guess the two have become good friends. They probably want to chat more about their party before Santina leaves." "Well, I'll still have a nap if I can. I didn't get much sleep last night, seeing that Auntie Elsa and I had to deal with the poachers by ourselves while you were out gallivanting with Johan." Kerry knew her friend was only joking and blew her a kiss before getting up and going into her office. Naomi walked further down the corridor to her bedroom. The knocking on Naomi's door slowly penetrated her dreams and her consciousness. She felt groggy as she put her feet on the cool slate floor and walked to the door. Kerry's voice came muffled from the other side of the door. "Hun, are you in there?" Naomi opened the door. Kerry walked past her and plopped herself down on the bed where Naomi had been sleeping moments before. She looked remarkably fresh and energetic in an emerald green top and black jeans. The green of her top was in perfect contrast to her red curls. Naomi yawned and rubbed her eyes with the palms of her hands. She knew she had to wake up, but her body disagreed vehemently. "What's up?" "Luca's back. He's asking for you." Naomi couldn't think. Why would Luca be back? Where did he go? Then she remembered he'd stayed behind at the orphanage to film Ellie Naomi. "Do you know what he wants?" Kerry had started Naomi's shower for her meanwhile. She returned to help Naomi to the bathroom. "Come on, sleepyhead. Let's get you into the shower. Luca wants to show videos of the Ellie. He's asked me to arrange it so all the guests can watch the video before dinner in the Lapa." Kerry put an arm around Naomi's shoulders and steered her towards the bathroom. While Naomi got rid of her clothes and stepped into the shower, Kerry went back into the bedroom and opened Naomi's wardrobe. "What do you feel like wearing tonight?" When Naomi didn't answer, Kerry put out the clothes on the bed. She knew Naomi didn't care too much about what she wore, provided it was clean. Naomi had lovely dresses, but she never wore them. Kerry posed in the mirror, holding Naomi's silver sleeveless maxi dress against her body. It was lovely. She laid the dress on the bed and took out silver flip-flops from the shoe rack inside the wardrobe. She waited until Naomi had the dress on and was sitting in front of her mirror before she brushed out Naomi's long hair for her. "Are you more awake now?" Naomi yawned again as she put silver-hooped earrings through the small holes in her earlobes. "Yes, thank you. I don't know what came over me. I guess I haven't caught up on sleep properly over the last few days." The two women walked into the Lapa together. The moment she laid eyes on the table, Naomi understood Kerry's nervous energy. Johan had joined the others. But so had the rude prince they'd met earlier. Naomi and Kerry glanced at each other, their eyes voicing their concern. But he seemed more relaxed, laughing, talking with Johan and Luca. Auntie Elsa and Santina sat at the other end of the table, deep in conversation. Luca and Johan looked up as Naomi and Kerry walked towards them. Johan's friendly booming laugh greeted them as they reached the table. "Ah, here they are! Have you met Stefan yet? Stefan, these are the most beautiful women and the best lodge managers you'll meet in Namibia or anywhere." Kerry blushed at Johan's compliment and took her seat beside him. Naomi nodded at Stefan before sitting down in the empty chair between Luca and Auntie Elsa. Several empty bottles of the local Hansa beer stood on the table in front of the big man, who seemed more jovial now. Luca took Naomi by surprise when he took her hand under the table and squeezed it. He smiled at her before getting up and walking toward the wall at the back of the lapa. His confident strides and tall frame drew appreciative glances from the guests seated at other tables. Stopping in front of a large screen Kerry had arranged there, Luca pinged a knife against a glass to get everyone's attention. People swiveled around in their chairs to look at him. Luca smiled at everyone before speaking. "I know you're all here on a wonderful vacation, and you couldn't have chosen a better lodge at which to do so. But among all the beauty here, evil also lurks. I'm sure everyone here is at least familiar with the poaching problem in Africa, of tusks from elephants and rhino horn. I've experienced firsthand the horror of an elephant killed by poachers for her tusks. What people talk about less is the fact that sometimes the calves of the killed mothers are left behind to fend for themselves. Desert Lodge has a magnificent anti-poacher unit. I was lucky enough to meet them and to join them on an anti-poacher operation. I don't recommend it, but if you talk to them, I'm sure they will answer all your questions. Meanwhile, we've placed the little Ellie we found with the dead elephant mother at the elephant orphanage near here. Her name is Naomi, after Desert Lodge's brave head guide." Luca extended an arm with an open hand in Naomi's direction. With so many of the guests looking at her, she could feel her cheeks burn, but Luca came to her rescue when he continued talking, drawing their attention back to him again. "I'm fortunate Naomi was appointed to look after my secretary and me during our stay here. Anyone who inherits her services after we leave tomorrow will be lucky indeed." Naomi noticed Stefan watching her, and she shifted in her chair. But when Lucas resumed talking, Stefan turned his head in that direction. Naomi breathed out a sigh of relief and listened to Lucas' presentation. "But to get back to Ellie Naomi, I was lucky enough to stay with her tonight until she fell asleep. I wanted to share my observations with all of you, and I hope it will inspire you to help protect these magnificent animals." Lucas stepped aside to appreciative applause. He pressed a key on his laptop, connected to the screen. Ellie Naomi was playing in the mud bath with her surrogate father. They were kicking the ball to each other. The image merged into the Ellie going into her stable for the night. Her surrogate father went with her and offered her a big bottle of milk. The camera panned into her little face as she sucked at the teat on the bottle. Her shiny eyes were intently focused on her surrogate father as she drank. White foam bubbles appeared around her little mouth. The guests in the lapa made ooh and ah sounds as they watched the tiny elephant. Small, happy noises accompanied the Ellie's tiny trunk as it snaked this way and that over her surrogate father's hand and arm. She seemed to thank him for her meal. When the bottle was empty, her surrogate father laid down on the hay in the small stable and encouraged the Ellie to join him. At first, it looked as though she might do so, but she remained standing and walked back and forth. After a short while, heart-rending sounds came from the small animal. The camera panned into her face for a close-up, and people gasped when they saw the tears that streamed from her eyes and clung to her eyelashes. Naomi looked around at the guests. Several were tearful as they continued to watch the Ellie crying for her mother. Her surrogate father tried to comfort her, but she was inconsolable. Naomi admired Luca's editing skills. He'd allowed them to see just enough of the sad Ellie to make a lasting impression. The camera panned away, and the Ellie's sounds grew fainter. Luca pressed another key, and the screen once again became just a screen. It's heartbreaking to see what we humans do to animals, isn't it? I hope this inspires you to think of our animal friends in a different, more humane way, and to help when they need us. Thank you. Luca returned to his seat under thunderous applause. Several people tapped him on his shoulder as he passed their tables, or extended a hand to shake his. Naomi's heart felt like it was jumping out of her chest from pride and love for this amazing man. She couldn't keep her smile from her face as Luca took his place next to her once again. Everyone around the table congratulated him on his excellent film. Johan's voice boomed above the others. Santina came to put a hand on Luca's shoulder, smiling down at him. Naomi noticed Stefan was the only one not congratulating Luca. Instead, he regarded Luca intently from across the table. His cheerfulness apparently diminished. Naomi wondered if he felt competitive toward Luca. It wouldn't be the first time she'd witnessed it among the princes, especially. Much later, when most guests had gone to bed, Naomi excused herself and left the three men and Kerry sitting around the table, talking and drinking beer and coffee as she sought her bed. Auntie Elsa and Santina and the staff had left the Lapa just after midnight. Luca held on to her hand for a moment longer than she'd expected, his smile intimate, his dark eyes locked on hers. Good night, amore. See you in the morning. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for liking and sharing my videos. And most of all, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate it. So until next time.